I'm coming at you live on tape from Sydney, Ohio. This week's movie is the epic told story called Leap of Faith. It's Steve Martin as a con man, sleazy preacher. Just trying to make a living. No, he's not just trying to make a living. He's trying to rip people off in a town called Rustwater, Kansas. Now, why is he in a town called Rustwater, Kansas? Well, we see at the beginning, he gets out a speeding ticket with a cop. Because he knows people and he knows how to read them. But his truck breaks down. He's stuck in Rustwater, Kansas for 4 days. So he sits up shop. And Liam Neeson is the sheriff trying to get him out of his town. Now, maybe in Kansas, sheriffs run towns. But here in Ohio, sheriffs run counties. And Liam Neeson does everything to stop him. Because the plant's shut down. It hasn't rained in 4 years. Well, it's probably rained at some point in those 4 years. But it's dry and crops are failing. And Liam Neeson says they can't afford a revival. Well, the preacher says they can. And he's sitting on this girl at a diner who wants nothing to do with him. Because her brother's a cripple. And the last preacher she took him to said he didn't have enough faith. Deborah Winger is Steve Martin's cohort in crime, Jane, who is leading him through, who is helping him screw all these people out of money. And this movie is hilarious. Steve Martin fakes heals people by touching them and grabbing them and slapping them. And he does his usual Steve Martin stuff. And you've got his Angels of Mercy, the sisters who dance. Steve Martin perfectly pulls off the sleazy preacher con man. And this is one of my favorite roles of his because he perfectly pulls it off. At one point, he even takes his jacket, his blazer off, and says it has the fever of Christ in it. And he hurls it at a guy's chest and says, "Now you're healed." He argues with Will after the first show and compares his show as Jonas Nightingale, the preacher, to a Broadway show. He just gives people hope instead of a good song. Because he knows he's a fake. But then Will exposes him during his second show as a kid and young adult who was a criminal. And Steve Martin comes back from it, talking about how you need a criminal who is now living a straight life, which he certainly is not, to lead you to the good life. Tells everyone to take their money back. And then plants fake 20s in their wallets to make it look like a miracle happened, but says a sign from God is coming, which he then paints blood coming out of the Jesus who's on across his eyes, saying it's a miracle. Of course, even more people show up now for his fake scam, while Liam Neeson, who's the sheriff, whose accent goes from Southern to non-Southern to British, this is a young Liam Neeson, who is wooing Deborah Winger, who is getting tired of the manipulation game. Jonas preaches to even more people now, but they demand another healing after he says he's all healed out. He also wears one of those light bright jackets like Chris Jericho had with all the sparkles on when the light hits. On his is completely covered, where Jericho's had his sleeves free. I bet that's where Chris Jericho got the idea from. So he brings the boy who's crippled on stage, whose name is Boyd, of the waitress he's trying to bang. And Boyd touches the feet of the blood tear Jesus. Well, it's really paint tear Jesus. And Boyd can walk again. And Jonas Nightingale freaks out. But his crew is like, we can move to Dallas now. We can move to Fort Worth. We can do the hit the big cities and make the big money. And Jonas says yes. At which point Deborah Winger leaves them for Liam Neeson, because she's like, it's not a game anymore. We actually had some faith healing here. We're not like faking it now. And Jonas then, after Boyd offers to join up to relive the faith healing, Boyd has an epiphany. He doesn't want to do this anymore, and he leaves, heading to Pensacola, Florida, and then it finally rains. Now, Jonas leaves his light white jacket and a ruby ring that Jane wanted, and a note, which we don't find out what's on the note. I imagine it goes something like this: Jane, I'm leaving. Please take this ruby ring. Don't try to follow me. Jonas. And then when it rains, everybody rushes the tent, and you see its old crew holding another revival. And that's when the credits roll, and it's Angels of Mercy, which are his choir, are singing, and they're taking people's money again, his crew is. Now, the interesting thing about this movie, well, there are several interesting things about this movie. One of the interesting things you see in the credits, if you stay to watch them, is they had a con and fraud consultant on the movie. Meaning a lot of these cons and frauds came up with a con and fraud expert. Now, one of the con and frauds that was a real con and fraud is when Jane is going through the audience after Boyd says he had the call, which is the second sight from birth. And she's talking to these people and leaning in. She has a transmitter in her chest that's picking up the voice going to Jonas's earpiece, which is hidden, and the transmitter is hidden. So he can hear these people, what they're saying, and he can react. That is an actual con that a preacher pulled at one point. And somebody caught them in the act. Another interesting thing about this movie is that it was released on December 18th, 1992. Why is that interesting? Because on December 18th, 1992 was also released Forever Young and Toys, Forever Young starring Mel Gibson and Toys starring Robin Williams. So as you can guess, this movie did not do well. In fact, a lot of people do not know this movie exists. Because guess what? You're going to talk to your kids that weekend, and you're going to go, kids, do you want to see a new Steve Martin movie where he's a con man preacher? Or do you want to see a new Robin Williams movie about toys? And they're going to go, the new Robin Williams movie about toys. And you're going to talk to your wife and go, do you want to see a new Steve Martin movie where he's a con man preacher? Or do you want to see a new or do you want to see a new Mel Gibson movie? She's going to be like, I want to see a new Mel Gibson movie. And that could jack you off because Mel Gibson makes me so hot. Because Steve Martin was never the sex symbol Mel Gibson was. And women loved Mel Gibson. So as you can imagine, this movie made like $12 million and had like an $8 million budget. So it did not do well, but did make over its budget. And also out that holiday season of 1992 was Home Alone 2, Aladdin, Malcolm X, Under Siege, The Bodyguard, and The Muppet Christmas Carol. So as you can imagine, this movie did not do well. Most people do not know it exists. It's on Max. I highly recommend it. I do not recommend getting Max just to see this movie, but Max right now has enough stuff on it that's worth getting for a month. Because you can watch A Leap of Faith, you can watch Mad Max Fury Road before you watch Furioso, you can watch The Iron Claw, you can watch Dune Part 2, you can watch Dream Scenario. Dream Scenario is very much worth watching. So you can watch all these movies if you get Max right now. And Leap of Faith is worth watching if you get Max, if you have Max, or if you're thinking of getting Max. It is very funny. Steve Martin is very good in it. Deborah Winger, I've only seen her in this. Liam Neeson is hilarious because, as I said, his accent. Let's say I'm at 17 minutes. Oh, it says I'm at 12 minutes. His accent goes from Southern to regular to British, and it does this often. It's also got Meatloaf in it, who does a good job. Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's got opening credit name in it, and he's in it a lot. He's seen a lot, but he doesn't have very many lines. That's all I'm going to say about this movie. I'm going to do the song now. Now, this song I had to rewrite. The original version was shorter. But the ghost in my house stole my old notebook, which had a bunch of the other songs in it. So, this is the new version of the song. And move mountains and raise the dead, can part waters and feed the hungry with bread, can heal the sick and make a rich man beg, and raise you up to great heights and take out your legs. It can make the blind see and cripple and make the cripple stand up and cheer. What can do all this, you ask? Well, it's faith, can't you hear? You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. Faith can make you take you anywhere, make you anything. You make the mute man stand up and sing. You gotta have faith. Yeah, this is a new notebook, so I'm having trouble with some of the pages. Faith helped Noah build the ark and helped the Israelites part the sea. It raised old Lazarus up, and it can make a man a king, but you gotta have faith. Gotta have faith. Faith can take you anywhere, make you anything. It can even make the mute man stand up and sing. Gotta have faith. Now, faith is a peculiar thing. So you need the faith of the size of a grain of a mustard seed. Now that has a nice ring. How big is the grain of a mustard seed? Well, a mustard seed is 2 millimeters. So a grain of that is small, real small. You've gotta have faith. You've gotta have faith. Faith can take you anywhere, make you anything, and even make the mute man stand up and sing. You gotta have faith, faith. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, watch some more of my videos. If you didn't, too bad. Watch the wrestling videos. Watch the other song videos. I only practiced that song like twice today, because the old song was shorter, and as I said, to go stole my notebook. Next week's review is the Horror Classic Slashers. It's on YouTube. And as I said, Leap of Faith is on Max. If you're thinking of getting Max has a lot on it right now, so it's worth getting. And I said next week's movie is Slashers.